Assalamualaikum and hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Hashif and I'm the first presenter for this group, and I will present about the introduction, which is inflation and unemployment. The first is inflation. Inflation is determined as an increase in the price of goods and service acquired by the household. The change in price rate is used to measure whether inflation happened or not. In the market price, they will keep rising from time to time, but they will also slip down, which is known as deflation. Inflation is usually monitored using the Consumer Price Index or CPI, which quantify the proportion impact on the price of a group and good service consumed. According to the statistic by the Bank Negara Malaysia, the inflation rate in Malaysia for this year is between 2.5 and 4% according to the growth in global oil and gas prices. Next is unemployment. Unemployment describes a situation of those who are seeking work but unable to obtain one. According to the survey data provided by the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the unemployment figure is expected to increase from 4.5% in May 2021 to 4.8% in the following months because of the COVID-19 cases. The unemployment rate is usually used to analyze a nation economic state of a country. A country is considered to have a reached full unemployment if the unemployment rate is below than 4%.
Population in Malaysia. Malaysia population is expected to reach 32.7 million in 2021, up from 32.6 million in 2020, with 0.2% annual growth rate. The lower number of non-citizens from 3 million 2020 to 2.7 million contribute to the decrease in the percentage of population growth rate in 2021. This was consistent with the closure of national border and the return of foreigners to their respective country during the movement control order imposed in response to the global spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Citizen population increased from 29.7 million in 2020 to 3 million in 2021, with the growth rate remaining stable at 1%.
Following 4 consecutive recession quarters, Malaysia's gross domestic product (GDP) grew 60.1% in the second quarter of 2021. However, this quarter's significant increase was partly attributed to the low base reported in the second quarter of 2020. GDP declined 2.0% quarter in the seasonally adjusted quarter, down from 2.70% in the previous quarter. In terms of monthly GDP growth, April and May recorded 40.1% and 90.8% respectively. In June, GDP gross domestic product fell by 4.4% due to statewide closure with stricter standard operating procedure (SOPs), with only essential services allowed to run. As a result, Malaysia's GDP grew by 7.1% in the first half in 2021. On the surplus side, the economy performed well in the second quarter of 2021 as a result of continued expansion in the manufacturing sector and resurgence in the services sector. At the same time, on the demand side, development was influenced by rising household spending and positive growth in net exports. In addition, after a recession for 9 consecutive quarters, fixed asset investment rebounded during the quarter. The services sector was the most significant contributor to the Malaysian economy, up 30.4% in the second quarter of 2021. The performance was led by the wholesale and retail trade subsector, which grew at a faster rate of 21.0%, followed by the finance and insurance subsectors 23.3% and transport and storage 37.2%. The information and communication subsector grew 5.9% compared with 6.3% in the previous quarter. Meanwhile, the food and beverage and accommodation subsector increased 9.1% after declining 29.8% in the last quarter. Each quarter, the overall services sector declined by 3.5%. The manufacturing sector grew faster at 26.6% in the second quarter of 2021. Products such as petroleum, chemicals, rubber, and plastic 28.0%, and electrical, electronics, and optical product 26.3%, drew development in the manufacturing sector, which also reflected the strong increase in exports of goods reported during the quarter. Increase in transport equipment, manufacturing and other repair to 41.6%, and non-metallic minerals products, primary metals and fabricated metals products also contributed to higher growth 33.5%. The construction industry grew by 40.3% following a fall of 10.4% in the previous quarter. Specialized construction and civil engineering activities contributed 58.1% and 50.0%, respectively, to the performance. Moreover, the non-residential buildings 34.8% and residential 60.3% subsectors improved significantly during the quarter. However, the construction industry declined by 8.8% quarter on quarter.
National debt of Malaysia. From the chart, we can see that starting from October 2018, the national debt increased until April 2021. Malaysia's national government debt increased to $231.1 billion in June 2021, up from $221.3 billion the previous quarter. At the end of August 2021, Deputy Shah Abdullah Finance Minister 1, Muhammad Shah Abdullah, stated that the national debt stood at RM 965.3 billion or 63.3% of gross domestic product. Meanwhile, statutory debt accounted for 59.2% of GDP as of August 2021, including Malaysian government securities MSG instrument, which is Malaysian Islamic Treasury MITB, and Malaysian government investment issues MGII. Other debt instruments such as external loans and Malaysian Treasury bill debt have their own statutory limits. Despite the fact that debt has expanded through numerous stimulus packages, the government's priority is still to support the people.
According to the International Financial Institution in 2020, economic growth in Malaysia is the fourth largest in Southeast Asia. It also has the world's 36th fastest growing economy. Malaysia's worker productivity is markedly larger than those of neighboring countries like the Philippines or Vietnam, which, owing to the high compactness of experience and understanding industries, also the surrogacy of splitting manufacturing and digital economy advanced technologies. As per the Global Competitiveness Report 2019, Malaysia's economy is indeed the world's 27th greatest viable. Despite the foregoing, the services sector is a key economy area, properly accounting for 57.7% of the overall contributions. Nonetheless, it showed a negative 5.5% in 2019. The tourist industry has been the most essential part of the services sector. However, since COVID-19 suddenly hit not only our country, but all countries around the globe, it has hindered all travel activities since all borders were decided to close under government order to flatten the curve. This situation must also result in fewer foreign tourists visiting and investing in our country. Following that, the industry sector is currently the second largest contributor to economic growth. It has been shown that the industry sector did contribute 22.9% to the sector of the economy, which also flagged up the deleterious drop of 5.5% in 2019. It was significantly affected by a decrease in refined fuels, chemicals, non-metals, mineral products, basic steel, concocted metal, and automobile transportation equipment. As we can see, Malaysia's agriculture industry seems to be the third biggest sector of the economy. It comprises approximately 7.4% of the Malaysian economy and measured a negative 2.2% in 2019 due to reduction in oil palm, rubber and logging manufacturing. Agriculture has figured prominently as the pillar and motivating factor behind the resilience and accomplishments of the Malaysian economy ever since the century of British colonization. Food and non-alcoholic liquors 30% of overall mass and residential, water, electricity, fuel, and other fuel sources are the most important categories in Malaysia's inflation figures 23% per total weight. Other classifications encompass transport services, which is 15%, connectivity 6%, entertainment and heritage 5%, and decorations, home furnishings, and regular household care respectively 4%. Hotels and restaurants compensate for 3.2% of the final amount, while odds and ends products and services act for 6.3%. Malaysia's core growth dropped to a 5-month low of 2% in August 2021, back from 2.2% from the previous month and below the market expectations of 2.2%, potentially arising to a downturn in property prices from 0.6% to 0.7%. Meanwhile, food prices stayed on 1.2% to 1.3%, and on the other hand, public transit prices are on 1.2% and 1.3%, or more specifically 11.0% to 11.6%. Cost of hotels and restaurants soared fewer 0.6% to 0.7%, as did those for hard liquor and cigarettes 0.4% to 0.5%, while those for sundry products and services slipped from negative 0.6% to 0.1%. In the meantime, inflation for interiors, household appliances, and regular maintenance held steady at 1.7%, while schooling price levels stayed constant. On the other hand, the expense of amusement and heritage has continued to climb. Commodity prices were reported monthly in August after going down 0.6% through July. The overview of unemployment rate in Malaysia. Economists predict Malaysia's full-year jobless rate to continue to stay at 4.5% after the rate held steady at 4.8% in July. As a result, they preserved their 2021 year-end jobless rate estimate at 4.5%. In comparison, Bank Negara Malaysia per various anticipates the Malaysia's year-end unemployment numbers will be approximately 4% and 5%. Malaysia's unemployment rate was 4.8% last year. Nevertheless, with the currently underway disease outbreak remaining the main downfalls and taking into consideration the recent weak point in the unemployment market following the encroachment of the full lockdown, during this year it amended its unemployment rate marginally higher to 4.5%, up from 4.3% in its previous estimate. As per the Department of Statistics Malaysia, Malaysians' labor force participation rate to 777,200 in July, slightly higher compared to 1.2% from 768,700 in June. However, the unemployment levels held steady at 4.8%. Thus, the rate has risen by 0.1% from 4.7% in July 2020 to 4.7% in July 2021.
Monetary and fiscal policy to overcome the problem of inflation and unemployment of the country. First is policy to reduce inflation, fiscal policy to overcome inflation. Malaysia is not expected to experience a hyperinflation situation despite the COVID-19 outbreak, as the inflation rate is only 3.4%, which remains low as in previous year. Inflation occurs when economic growth to increase spending. When this happens, prices rise and currency in the economy fall, causing the exchange rate to be lower when compared to the currency of other countries. Next is policy to reduce unemployment, monetary policy to overcome unemployment. Malaysia suffer from a high youth employment rate of 4.8%. This rate hinders economic growth and needs to be addressed in order to create a more prosperous economy and inclusive society. For example, to reduce youth unemployment, the government may reorganize and expand public expenditure on education to increase access to high-quality education for all Malaysians.
I'm gonna present about what is the impact of COVID-19 to inflations and also unemployment. So let's start with inflation first. Cost push inflation is one of the factors that causes the inflation other than demand push inflation. However, then there is several factors that cause the cost push inflation. One of it is increase in import price. Especially in this situation of COVID-19, we cannot deny every country do suffer loss where their economy level keep drops. Therefore, they tend to rise the inflow of currency into the country to rise in the export price. In our situation, this is how increase in import price happen. Import price means cost of purchased goods from abroad increases. In addition, in Malaysia, it estimated 60 billion food items imported from Malaysia a year. It is a high amount and not including the cost of for transportation from Singapore and India. Since the import price of the production increase, therefore the supplier tends to increase back the price to the buyer or the seller in order for them not to suffer the loss and maintain their net profit again. The same things happen to the seller when the price imposed on them increases. Therefore, they will increase back the price sell toward the customer, which is the people. From here, we can see clearly the impact of COVID-19 toward the increase in inflation in Malaysia is because the increase in import prices. How about unemployment? What does COVID-19 impact on unemployment? Unemployment refers to a situation where the labor force or individuals are able and willing to work but still not get it yet. Usually, unemployment is measured by the employment rate, an economic indicator that measures the percentage of unemployed among the existing labor force in the country. From there, we can know whether the employment rate in Malaysia is high or not. This is because if the unemployment rate is high, it illustrates that the labor force that can contribute to the economic resources of the country cannot be employed. Then this will contribute to the occurrence of waste in the factors of labor of productivity in the economy. Moreover, to make a country have a good economic growth, human resources play the most important role in improving the quality of service and quality of work. As we all know, the rapid spread of the COVID-19 infections disease had a huge impact on Malaysian political, financial, socio-economic, safety and education system. As the number of sick Malaysians expands, the government is expected to enact the Movement Control Order (MCO) on the number of inhabitants starting March 18, 2020. In addition, it will have a major effect on the employment sector. This is attributed to the reason the many workforce sectors are being obligated to limit operations immediately in an effort to stop the COVID-19 outbreak from spreading. Due to the blockage of industries during MCO, many companies were unable to cover the expenses along with paying staff and forcing businesses to cut the number of their staff. Thank you.
Initiative to overcome unemployment in Malaysia. The first one is reduce the recruitment of foreign workers. The migration of foreign employees is a typical trend, especially since most countries are focusing on maximizing their economic development. Since the cost to hire a foreign worker is cheaper, strong demand for labor connected to economic success is driving the increased presence of foreign workers in Malaysia. From a macroeconomic viewpoint, foreign workers immigration is expected to have a positive influence on the receiving countries, like an increase in labor productivity. However, it will result in unemployment among the country's citizens. So, government can reduce recruitment by hiring Malaysians themselves to work in any sector. Second initiative is improving the quality of education system. The education system in Malaysia are good but needs to be improved more. If the education system are improved, the graduate can be more excellent and successful in the future. When the students graduate with a good certificate, they will have a bright opportunity to find a better job and earn a salary commensurate with the certificate earned. The Malaysian government, especially the education minister, should increase educational quality and apply more effective technologies in the education system. The last initiative to overcome unemployment in Malaysia is always take the opportunity given. COVID-19 is one of the reasons why Malaysians are losing their jobs daily. Since the pandemic struck in 2019, the majority of Malaysians have lost their job. When there is any chance to gain a job, even if we are not interested in it, we must take advantage of it. Malaysians also need to adjust their mindset about not wanting to work because the pay is low. As citizens, we must remember that in most cases, salaries begin with a low amount and do not automatically rise to a high level. To help with the unemployment problem, those who have been chosen for job should try it out first. And always remember to not take a chance we have been given for granted. Next is initiative to overcome inflation in Malaysia. The first one is raising tax rates. Inflation can be controlled by raising tax rates. Raising tax rates for firms and individuals will reduce and limit consumption. Reduced usage will result in a decrease in the price of an item. Both spending and savings are reduced by income tax. It does not use accumulated saving to lower cost. It limits people's purchasing power indefinitely, decreasing the development of saving in the form of government debt and also lowering the risk of future inflation. The second way to overcome inflation in Malaysia is by saving the government expenditure. The government has the power to impose restriction on the purchase or demand of products and services. The government also can limit the amount of money spent on non-essential items like comparative research. The public projects that are not profitable also need to be reduced. When the number of public projects is reduced, domestic employment decrease and resulting in a loss in community income. As a result, the amount of domestic demand was also reduced, so the general price level will start to decrease and inflation will be controlled. Increased interest rates are the third initiative to overcome inflation in Malaysia. As interest rates rise, consumers are more likely to save because saving yields a higher return. The interest rate determines the cost of saving or lending money. Banks give an interest rate on saving to attract depositors. Interest is also charged on money borrowed from a bank's deposit. When interest rates are low, individuals and businesses tend to request more loans. Each bank won't expand the money supply in a fractional reserve banking system. According to the quantity theory of money, inflation is caused by an increasing money supply. So as a result, high interest rates have the effect of lowering inflation.
As a conclusion, the unemployment rate and inflation in Malaysia are at a rather alarming level and should be worried. The government need to review and improve existing policies to address this problem. If the issue continue for a longer length of time, it would have a serious impact on the nation economy and as a consequence on economic productivity. The economy of a country determines the standard of living of the people while maintaining the well-being of its citizens. That's all from us and thank you.